Good evening. I'll be talking about an article that I wrote my paper on about how funeral homes were affected by COVID-19 virus. COVID-19 has caused some very unusual times in the funeral home and in the world. COVID-19 has delayed and canceled some funerals for people. The vice president of Jerome D. Legacy Funeral Home said people with or without the virus were all treated the same no matter what. Which this means that, it didn't matter if you had the virus or didn't. You were going to get treated the same way if you had to cancel the funeral because people couldn't make it, or they didn't want to get the virus. You're exposed to the virus. COVID has affected the death rate from all around the country. The NFDA said the pandemic is projected to cause an additional 200,000 deaths nationwide, and that wasn't even counting the projected deaths at the start of the year without the virus. Those 200 deaths are going to cause overload at some funeral homes. The funeral home that I work at, which is Dattle Funeral Home, hasn't been affected that bad death rate wise, but the way that we have conducted services has changed. We're from a very small town, and there ain't been many cases in our county. But at the start of the pandemic, we could only have a service that could only include 10 people or more in the building at one time. We've had families arrange a visitation for the future when that rule was in place. We've had more graveside service only funerals during this pandemic. The pandemic has not affected cremations. In my opinion, our cremation rate has stayed the same. We have had people choose cremation over a funeral service because of the pandemic, and it's cheaper than a full funeral service. A good thing about working with families is that they have been cooperating very well and understanding that these are not normal times, and the funeral homes do have rules to follow, even if, the circumstances. In the article, it talks about that the funeral home has been overloaded with business, and they had to turn families down and refer to them to another funeral home in the area. And that's one thing I hope that I never have to do, is to turn a family down and tell them that we can't provide services for them just because we're too busy. Thank you.